I'm going to start out by demonstrating how to draw and shade a sphere. When you're doing this, please start by drawing lightly. And of course, with a sphere, we will want a circle. And just draw the circle the best you can. And after you're finished sketching it out lightly, you can go ahead and make a more direct, darker line. And that's our basic shape that we start with when we're shading a sphere and drawing a sphere. The shadow of our geometric forms, our 3D shapes, are shadows that are on the table, that are on the surface that the object is sitting on. The shadows need to all go the same way. These are called cast shadows. Think about like a fishing line. When we cast our fishing lure, we are throwing that lure out into the water. Same thing with the shadow. The shadow is being thrown by the light. The shadow of a sphere is an elliptical shape or an oval shape. The shadows on our forms, these cast shadows, stop near the bottom of the form. They never travel up the side or up to the top. When I'm shading the sphere using hatching, I want to think about these lines moving along the curved surface of the sphere. And I like to start with some lines that are pretty far apart, and that's going to help me with a guide. This area that's diagonally opposite from the shadow is called the highlight. This is where the light, in this case from the left side, is hitting the sphere, and there's no shadow there. I'm going to turn my paper. It'll make it easier for me to shade. Now I am putting in more hatch marks. This area that's down closer to the shadow is our dark gray shade. So I want to press a little harder and put these hatch marks closer together. And you can see that I'm using shorter marks, but I'm still curving with the sphere. So this area of the sphere is our darker gray. As I get closer to the highlight, I want to not press as hard and leave more space between the lines. And again, when I get up to the highlight, I want to use very few hatch marks and leave this area for the highlight unshaded. I think I can use a few more hatch marks here on the edge. And we should be able to see darker gray, the middle, and lighter grays, and then our highlight. The shadow, I'm going to just use cross-hatching. And I'm not concerned about the direction of my pencil as much now because I'm pressing down as hard as I can with the pencil to make this nice, deep, rich black shadow. And this is our darkest value for this exercise. Now I'm going to draw and shade a cube or a rectangular prism. I want to start with a vertical line, and when I make this, I just want to make it as straight as I can. At the bottom of the vertical line, I'm going to draw two diagonal lines. These diagonal lines should not be really steep like you see my pencil. Instead, they should be gentle, more shallow diagonal lines. At the end of each of those diagonal lines, I'm going to draw a light vertical line on each side. Again, drawing these lines as straight as I can. The two lines at the top of my middle vertical line need to be parallel with the line below. I like to use my pencil and then move my pencil up to the top, and that's going to show me that those are parallel and give me an idea about where that line is going to go. And I'm going to make that diagonal line as close to parallel to the bottom line as I can. I have a little tail here that's too long. That's why I drew that lightly so I can erase. I'm going to move to this side of the prism. I'm going to draw my diagonal line that is parallel with the bottom. I got a little bit too low, so I'm going to fix that. I can erase the tail, and I'm just going to leave that. Well, I'll go ahead and erase it. The top of the cube or rectangular prism is the trickiest part. A lot of times I see students doing things like this, and that would not be a rectangular prism. That would be closer to a pentagonal prism. I want to think about the top of my cube or rectangular prism this way, where this line, and then this line back here are all parallel. Again, I'm going to draw that line lightly. I'm going to turn my paper so it's easier for me to see. I'm going to draw lightly. And I drew a lot of lines. It's about there. Now I'm going to go this direction. This line on the back left corner is parallel with the lines on the right side. Now I can erase any lines that I've drawn over, and I can also make these lines on my corners darker. The shape of our shadow goes from this corner. Remember, our shadows in this example are going to be on the same side because that light is being cast and then throwing these cast shadows. The top of the shadow, or the end of the shadow, is going to be parallel with these lines again. So it has a little point. Now I'm going to shade my dark gray side first. I like to turn my paper, and I'm going to start with some hatch lines, and I want to stop at the corners. The shadow, the shading that is closest to the shadow on this side of the form is my nice dark gray. I start with some lines that way. I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to do some cross-hatching and create some intersecting lines that are now going the opposite direction. Again, I want to stop at my corners. This side of my cube or rectangular prism is going to be my light gray. So in this case, I'm just going to use hatch marks, and I'm just going to use light lines. I want to make sure that I'm stopping at the edge of my form. The top is going to be the highlighted area. I will not shade the top at all. And now I'm going to shade my cast shadow. And remember that cast shadow is our nice, deep, darkest value. I don't have to worry about the direction of my pencil as much. I just want to press down harder. I don't want to go outside the edges, but I can always fix it if I do. Now I have two forms.